Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dave and I've traded thousands of option contracts over the years and it's taught me a few things, tips and tricks that might help you out, especially if you're new to trading options. This might save you a few bucks or make you a few more bucks. So let's talk tips and tricks. If that is what you're looking for, please stick around. Whoop. And if you have been trading options for years, some of this might seem pretty basic, but I might surprise you along the way. We'll have to wait and see. Watch the whole thing. So anyway, tip number one for me is to be flexible. So when we first get into options, we get ideas in our head and we want to force the issue sometimes. But we shouldn't be that way because markets can change and we're dealing with probabilities here. So everything can kind of shift really quickly and we should remain flexible. An example of this might be is if you, let's say you own SPY, right? The S&P 500, you have 100 shares, right? It's trading at $561 a share right now. Maybe you have $60,000 in cash. It's sitting over there too, collecting a little bit of income in a money market. So you have the ability to buy more if you want to, but you're looking at your account, you see all these tariffs and everything going on. You decide, I'm going to try to collect that extra dividend. I'm going to sell an out of the money covered call at 580 out 4 weeks from now and collect a few $100. So with that higher volatility that we have right now, that's a real life setup that you could do tomorrow, right? This is going to lower the beta of our portfolio. It's going to reduce our cost basis in SPY, assuming we keep all that income. So real life situation. But then tomorrow, our president comes on. He likes to talk every single day of the week. He decides tariffs. What tariffs? He decides to take down the tariffs. So in this situation, the stock market is likely to take off, right? And plus we have the FOMC meeting tomorrow, so we'll see how that shakes out. This is Tuesday, 3/18, by the way. So all that is occurring, and he comes out and takes these tariffs off, and the stock takes off. It's good because you own the stock. It's bad because you sold the option. So you're going to get crushed on that option. And sometimes, especially when we're new, we want to buy to close that option and sell to open further out with a higher strike price. But the market's changed here, and we need to be flexible. So oftentimes people think of rolling options as the fix-all for everything. So they're going to buy to close. They lost on this first one, right? They sold it. They bought it back. It was more expensive. They lost. They add time. They go up a couple strike prices, and they try to sell it further out. But the market has changed, and this is where we need to be flexible. So instead of rolling out to a higher strike price on the call side, is it smarter to close that out and sell a put? Probably, depending on your perception of the market. And this is what I'm talking about being flexible. This is just my example. So in this case, why are you rolling to a higher strike price on the call side when you can take this off, close the option, and sell a put if you think the market is going higher because the tariffs have been removed? So we need to remain flexible. That's just one example. But don't be so set in your idea that you can't adjust as you move along. And of course, if any of these comments seem like absolute BS, you can leave me a friendly comment down below.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Tip number two, I hate fees. I talk about it every time I review an ETF. I look at that expense ratio and I go, ugh, I hate it. So as these fees get really high, maybe is there an alternative that we can use with options? And the answer is yes. Something that you can look at is called a synthetic long position. This is where we're going to buy a call option and we're going to sell a put. The call option is going to cost us some money. The put option that we're selling is going to finance the call option. So for the most part, it doesn't cost much to do this. So we're going to look at that cost and the fact that this is less capital intensive as the money sits in the sidelines and maybe it makes money in your money market account versus buying 100 shares. So if I look at the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, that's the one that I pulled up, it has a 1.5% fee. Now there are better options, so maybe not a lot of people are buying that, but if you did want to buy that one, it would cost you about $100 to buy 100 shares over the course of a year based on that 1.5% expense ratio. So if you look at setting up a synthetic long position and the benefits of that, maybe that's less. Maybe that will save you some money. So with these ETFs that have very high expense ratios, and in this case doesn't pay any kind of dividend, it might make sense to take a look at making a synthetic long position instead of buying the 100 shares. Tip number 3, now for the scary one, selling naked calls. As soon as I say that, everybody goes, oh, no, 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 Dave, you should never, ever do that. Well, I've done it probably, I don't know, over 1,000 times, and I have yet to get pinched. I have yet to suffer any consequences from selling naked calls the way that I like to use naked calls.
No offense, but you are a stupid asshole.
So what I'm talking about here is, let's say you have 100 shares of SPY, and you sell these monthly call options out of the money. The stock market is trading sideways. Maybe it drops a little bit. As we approach expiration, you can close that option and you can roll to a new strike price. But sometimes we're going to leave those open, right? Not necessarily the most efficient way to do it. But as we get closer to expiration, I feel more and more comfortable selling another call option against my 100 shares. Does it add risk? Yes. How can you take that risk away for the most part? Well, I'm talking about trading on that very last day. So let's say we go all the way to that expiration of Friday, and SPY is still 5% out of the money. Now, if you set up your account with options level 3, I think with Fidelity, they will allow you to sell naked call options. So in this case, I'm not going to wait for it to expire. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday rolls around, and I'm going to sell my next option contract. I'm going to sell it on that Friday, maybe Thursday, maybe Wednesday, depending on how far out of the money and what kind of news is supposed to come out. I will take a little bit additional risk, but like I've said, it's never really burdened me yet. So I can't think of one instance in many, many years that it's ever cost me $1. So on Friday, I'm selling, which means I'm collecting that time value from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday when I would sell my next call option if I allowed it to expire. So this does add risk. And if you're brand new, I wouldn't say go out, start selling naked call options. And most likely you're not allowed to if you have level 1 or 2 options trading turn on your account. So understand what you're getting yourself into when it comes to these products. And when Jackass says sell naked calls, I'm talking about taking very little risk at the very end of a cycle on a broad-based ETF.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Tip number 4, volatility spikes are great for option sellers. So sometimes we need to be patient. I did a video over the summer when the VIX was at 12 looking at selling at the money calls and puts on the S&P 500 or SPY. And doing monthly options, you could collect around 14% when you annualize that rate of return. That's okay. But now the VIX has spiked up to around 22. It was all the way up to about 27. And right now, if you did that same trade, selling monthly options, it would return around 25%. So 25% versus 14%. It's not market timing. It's just waiting for the market to add volatility. So we had this pullback almost 10% in the S&P 500. If you were patient, you waited for right now, you could sell further out of the money, even though we've dropped 10%, selling more conservative puts and still collect that 14%, or you could sell closer to at the money, collect a higher premium. But it really boils down to not market timing, but being patient with your trades. Tip number 5 takes me back to my childhood and the first big concert I ever went to. It was Steve Miller, and he had a band, and it was called the Steve Miller Band. The song was Take the Money and Run. And it reminds me that when we enter these trades, we should have an exit strategy. So when you first get started with options, you're just like, beep, boop, boop. And then you're like, let's see this thing tick away. And that's okay for a little while. But we eventually want to get to where we have an exit strategy. So just as an example, let's continue with the S&P 500. Let's say you sell a put out of the money on the S&P 500. Again, president comes out and says, tariffs, what tariffs? He takes them down. The S&P 500 takes off. You sold this thing for $400. You look at day number 2 on a 30-day option, and it's now worth $150. Do you close it? The answer is yes, if that's your exit plan. So I would close that. I would take my $250 in one day. I would take my wife out for a nice dinner. I'd listen to Steve Miller Band. It'd be great. So have an exit strategy going in, and if you have those big moves, take advantage of those big moves and get out of that trade. No need to keep the risk on. You've been quite successful over a 1 or 2 day period on a 30-day option. Tip number 6 is for my Black Swan event crew.
I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Doctor, you're wanted on the phone. Everything's gonna be all right.
Right? The people that are really concerned about the future. Maybe they are just into retirement. They're worried about protecting their nest eggs. And in this situation, this is the time to hedge your position. This is time to buy puts. I know it takes some money out of your portfolio, but if it allows you to sleep at night, buy some puts. But when do we buy those puts? Just like volatility spikes are great for sellers, last summer when the VIX was just sitting there, if you watched the news and you watched option traders, they were saying, this is a great time to put some puts on. Not when volatility spikes and we drop 10%, but when we have a very low VIX environment. Doesn't cost you a whole lot. You can buy protection, and you can even hedge it. You can use hedged equity products even. There are a lot of ETFs like that. I'll be talking about a couple of those here in the near future, so like and subscribe as well. But you can do this yourself by buying cheap put options in a low VIX environment. You can even go out a little further, and you can sell some puts. You can turn it into a debit spread, so it won't cost you nearly as much. There's lots of ways to configure this, but the tip here is to do it when nothing's going on, when the VIX is subsided and you're still worried, but you want to protect your portfolio. Look at doing that during a low VIX environment.
It's bad enough. His mother likes to go down on rodeo clowns.
Okay, you know what?
Get your
Out.
things.
Fine.
Let's go.
I'm out of here.
Tip number 7 is what I call pace of play, or you could just say patience. But with the rise of 0DTE options, we seem to be birthing some really aggressive option traders that act recklessly and burn out real quickly. So what I've learned trading options for years is that I need to look at my portfolio, chunk it, and make trades and not jump all into one trade because I think it's a great idea. So this idea has allowed me to be a more profitable option trader. I guess that's the best way to explain it, because we don't know when that volatility spike is going to occur, but we want to have funds available to take advantage of it. During a low VIX environment, I might have to give up a little bit because maybe I want to protect my portfolio. But all this can occur because I manage my positions well. I'm constantly looking at my cash position and I'm deciding what I'm going to do next. So I break it down. Maybe you're a monthly option trader like me. I tend to focus on that 4 to 6 week window. And in that window, I'm going to look at my account. I'm going to chunk it, say 25% maybe this week. And then at the end of the week, I look at it, I monitor my cash position, and I decide what I'm going to do the next week. Close out my positions and don't get too aggressive. This has worked out really well, and it's what I call my pace of play. And it's made me a better option trader. So this video was about tips and tricks. We're going to end it with a trick, and I'm going to see who knows the answer to this trivia question. It's not so much trivia. I just want to see who has the best answer. Comment down below. If you made it this far, great.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
So SPY, I'm going to put this trade up here right now. It's trading at $561 a share. If I owned 100 shares of this particular ETF and I went out tomorrow and I sold to open a call March 20th, 2026, out 1 year from now at a $560 strike price, just $1 below the current price. And at the same time, I bought to open a put position out to the same expiration date and the same strike price. Why do they want to pay me $1,800 to just sit on this? Think about it. If this ETF takes off, let's say the S&P 500 goes up to, I don't know, $1,000 a share. I would have missed out on that, right? Because I sold a call capping my upside. So I don't get any of that gain. I have to sell it at $560, which is $1 below the current price, which means I make $1,700. And on the other one, where I'm buying to open a put, let's say it goes down, it crashes, right? Let's say it crashes to $400 a share. In that case, I still get to sell it at $560. So again, my result is I made $1,700. So what happened here? Why do I make $1,700 in this situation? Did I break the options market with this trade? No, I didn't. Do you have the answer? Let me know down below. And if you like this type of content, like and subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. Any questions? Ask down below. We'll see you next time. Have a great night. Take care. Whoop.